Okay, I'm really excited about this episode because I am a Triple J fan, have been forever, and still am, and Double J, and I'm wearing my Triple J Hottest 100 t-shirt. It's probably number 10, 11 in the collection. And you can buy Triple J t-shirts still if you haven't got one. So Radio Nerds Unite and get another piece of merch in your wardrobe. You'll see that. I'll talk about that in the app, actually, when I get our guests on. All right, I think we're ready to go. Everything's ready. Here we go. Thank you, Renee. That's very nice to hear your voice, and you're going to love this episode because it's all about music. Today, radio's biggest shared listening experience in the whole world. It's the Triple J Hottest 100. So on the weekend in Australia, you would have been listening to the radio. Now, I know that because everyone listens to the radio on one weekend in Australia in January for the Triple J Hottest 100. It's been going for decades now, going from strength to strength. And to demonstrate how strong it is, have a listen to G Flip as they talk about listening to the radio. I love it when artists talk passionately about the radio still. Joining us on Triple J Hottest 100 episode for today is the head of Triple J and Double J, Lachie Macara. G'day, Lachie.
Hey, Wade. How you doing?
Good, thank you. And joining us also is Abby Butler from Drive with Abby and Tyrone. Hey, Abby.
Hello, Wade.
Thanks for joining us, both of you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We get to hear the end result of all your hard work. We hear the countdown, and I'd love to take us behind the scenes. Lachie, when does the process start for each Hottest 100? How many months out are we talking, and what goes on?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good one for the radio nerds too. It's probably not as long as we would like, but also it's maybe not as long as people expect. I'd say in earnest, we're starting about 4 months out, and there's a lot of teams involved. It's a big team game to make it happen across product and technology and ops, our content teams, the music teams. But if I think about it, it really probably starts around now. We have a big debrief where we talk about all the wins and celebrate what we think went well, talk about what we think we might do differently next year, and then talk about those big ideas that will need time to try and pull off. So we're right in the middle of that debrief now, pulling together all that feedback. And that's when we start to think about other things we could do or amplify the stuff that we know worked well. But really in earnest, probably, I'd say 4 months out.
4 months out. And really, you're determined by the votes, right? So there's not a lot you can do in terms of what the actual makeup of the music looks like. But I'm imagining everything in and around the music is what you focus on first.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think, and that goes for the imaging, and it also goes for the general messaging, the artwork. I mean, you know how many parts go into a big campaign like this. So the music itself, that hopefully takes care of itself. It's the decisions that music team make every week around what they think is worth adding, what are the feature albums, and you hope that the ones you back in, particularly for the Australian artists, come up in 100 come January time.
Yeah. And Abby, this year there was more Australian artists than last year. Would you put that down to anything in particular?
I've been trying to think about what the answer to that could be, because it's been a question I've been asking myself since the countdown, since actually when I was sitting in the office listening to the countdown play out, because contrary to popular conspiracy, we do not know the list, us presenters, before we go in, aside from our portion. But I was sitting there with Dave Ruby Howe, and the two of us used to work for Triple J Unearthed, and early on in the countdown, it was artists that we were hearing like The Dregs and Confidence Man and Parcels making their debut. And I was like, what is it about this year? And I think it's a combination of really great Australian music and artists doing amazing things. But that, that's the case every single year. I think it was like a real concentrated effort from a lot of different people. Like there were fans of music who were very deliberately and intentionally just voting for Australian songs. I think it was such a brilliant move from the Triple J team to put on the Australian tab as well in that voting list and just making it as easy as possible. I think there's other great, organizations across Australian music industry who have like really just put in a lot of effort to push Australian artists forward. And so it was nice to see the culmination of all that that work over not just the last year, but years prior. Even stuff like ARIA, you know, changing their charting rules around having more new music pushed in front of people. I think all of that stuff kind of, all those little pieces all came together to give us the result of, I think it was 54 Australian songs in the countdown, which is massive.
Massive. Yeah, I think it was almost double the year before, I think. So fantastic effort and really good. And, you know, I think people sort of take Triple J for granted a bit in terms of its role in promoting and supporting Australian artists. And often, Lachie, the criticism obviously is that, you know, it should be all Australian, or is there ways that we can kind of make sure we're supporting Australian music? But those sort of numbers speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, it's a pretty great result. I mean, we always felt like last year was a little bit of an outlier, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of factors that went into a lower representation of Australian artists for last year. It's about release schedules, and it's a whole bunch of other things. But I think we were very purposeful in a lot of the stuff we did, and other parts of the industry, as Ab mentioned, to give Australian artists in the last year a particular leg up. And I think a lot of people took on board that responsibility that we feel every day to make sure that we're platforming those artists. Because often, as you say, when the going gets tough for the Australian artists, people get a bit tougher on Triple J, and we do love that. Like, I mean, we love it sometimes. Sometimes it's bullshit, but I think for the most part, it's a privilege and it's a responsibility that we understand is unique to us. People feel a sense of ownership and expectation over us that they might not afford to other organizations or any competitors. So when you have a result like that, you do know it's actually a team effort, and that, you know, we can sit there against those numbers and be really proud. But more importantly, those Australian artists, particularly ones making it for the first time, like the Terrys, who just put up an incredible post that sums it all up on their Instagram, they feel it as well. They really feel that win.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thrilled to see Tullamarines in there as well.
Oh.
Just 'cause I also love a band name after a Melbourne freeway, which I think is just really cute. Hey, let's talk numbers. So in terms of total number of votes and the ages of those people voting, Lachie, what are the headline numbers for you?
Yeah, so with 2.1 million votes, which is fantastic. We know we did a big mid-year of Australian songs that I know you're a fan of, Wade, which we appreciate, that did huge numbers as well. So there's been an enormous amount of voting happening and counting that's happened over the last year across 3 countdowns. We had 3.3 million stream starts on the day. We obviously don't know GFK numbers until that stuff comes through, but stream starts is a funny one because that's our platform's, you know, it's a unique experience where it's not your usual one-on-one radio experience. So we tend to think that there's probably more people thinking, listening around that single stream start. The social numbers are pretty out of this world. I mean, when you start to get into the millions, you know how it is. You sort of just, it all sort of rolls into each other. The numbers almost feel too big. We had, I think it's 37 million views on socials, just our platforms on the day, which was up 15 million views from last year. So they're quite staggering numbers. Yeah. And in terms of the actual votes, again, it's 18 to 29s, contrary to some belief. It's 18 to 29s that always show up for this countdown. They were the biggest voting block once again.
Excellent. And I assume 49-year-old males from the Mornington Peninsula was just a smaller demographic, but I fit into that one. Hey,
and very important demographic. We take that
very important.
Very seriously.
Yeah, I count for 2, I think. Hey, Abby, in terms of being on air when the countdown's on, it looks like an adrenaline rush. You're all in the studio, you're dancing. Is it like work, or is it like attending a party? Or both?
Oh, when you're presenting, it's terrifying. It is genuinely terrifying. It is the 3rd annual countdown, I think, that me and Ty have done, the 4th if we're including the Australian countdown mid last year. And as the person who is paneling, it is fucking terrifying. Can I be quite honest? And the comms, I always laugh. The comms between us and our producer, who's brilliant, Michaela Floriano. What it literally sounds like in the studio is it's silence, and it's me going over and looking at my rundown and going, I will hit number 48, this artist, this song. She repeats it back to me. It feels like operating a spaceship, but it is hard not to have fun as well in those situations, because you're seeing the text line light up and the phones light up in a way that just is unlike any other day. And also just the positivity, like everyone's having fun, and you know that there is a whole country, a whole world out there that is listening, and people listening from all parts of Australia and all parts of the world, and also doing every type of thing. You know, we are doing the Hottest 200 this week, and we were laughing about how it's a little bit more mundane. We've got texts going, oh, I'm listening in the car wash, I'm listening as I'm grocery shopping, but on Saturday it's like I'm listening in a party of 150, or I'm listening on a mountain, or it's just absolutely crazy. So yeah, it's stressful, but it is also incredibly fun. And then once your portion of the countdown is done, so once we hit 26 and we were out of the studio, it was really great. It was great seeing as well artists coming to the studio. Like we had the Ryans, we had the Perrys, we obviously had Kelly Holiday come through at the pointy end, and seeing in person what it means to these artists. I had my partner who came into the studio just to join the festivities, and she afterwards was like, you can see her in the background of some videos genuinely tearing up, watching Kelly's reaction and watching his partner's reaction. And it's really hard to not get swept up in the emotion as well, because it's all fun and games. But then when you see, especially an Australian artist, you know, and how meaningful it is to them to get that recognition, I think, especially for someone like Kelly Holiday, who's been tearing it up in Australian music for a while now. Yeah, it's a very special day.
I love that. I love the socials also give us a chance to experience it with you. You know, I always got the feeling, and I'm going back a decade or so ago here, when it's being pushed out as a broadcast. Obviously, there's the radio component, and you're listening as a radio person for all the radio-ness of it. Like you're literally imagining Luca with his finger on the button pressing number one, and that like 2-second pause of dead air before he presses it, just as a bit of a reveal. So you're knowing that kind of stuff. But I think the social stuff makes you feel connected to everyone else in Australia around the world. And, you know, I was watching people in Torquay on a rooftop bar. I saw people in Canada. Like, you know, you kind of think you not just think, you are experiencing being part of something that connects you to the station. And I imagine, Lachie, that's a key plank for Triple J, is staying connected to the audience.
Yeah, massively. And look, it's come a long way. And to be honest, we've got people like Abby and Ty to thank, because they really bring the party once they finish their shift. And that top 20, I mean, when Adam came in, when Kelly came in, I was like, it's a big party up there. So do you want to be with our staff? Because they're singing every word to like the top 20, or do you want a quiet little room? And they're like, no, let's get amongst it. So there was a long period where it felt like what we were doing, stressful, shaking over the button, our socials team, the product team, all those really important parts to make sure the audience listened to this. It was a little bit too separate to how the audience were experiencing it. So to be able to bridge that now, and a lot of people coming to the studio, even that aren't working on the countdown, is such a testament to the energy and the crew we have at Triple J at the moment. So I love that part of it. I love how noisy it gets towards the back end. I love how much it feels like we're having a party too. And the work that the social and video team do is just, it astounds me every time. They really took some creative risks this year. They really backed themselves to try stuff, you know, to do it a little differently. You know, Evie, who went to the Play Lunch party, put together just the most incredible video. It couldn't have been scripted any better, of Play Lunch landing at 4. She went to that party in the Dandenongs, and you can check it out on the Triple J on Earth Instagram. It's remarkable. It's exactly sort of what you expect to happen for people, you know, landing so high in a countdown for their first appearance. So yeah, it's a massive amount of work to make it feel like it's not just to broadcast, even though predominantly it's a linear moment.
I love hearing about. You guys.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, speaking of those Hottest 100 conspiracies with Kelly Holiday, and I saw a comment where someone said, "Now look, how the hell did Kelly Holiday? He was at a house party when number 2 came on, and I saw the footage. He's at a house party, and then he's in the studio. So how did that work? Was that pre-recorded? And like that was literally filmed there, where the Triple J staff are, and I'm in the studio here. So the start of the song's out there, the end of the song is in here. But I love that people get that behind the scenes thing, because I think we take it for granted. We're like, obviously that's what's happening, but everyone else, you know, watching and listening is like wanting to grab onto every little sort of bit of BTS content. So the social team is so good at giving that.
And
That's
Abby,
great, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, Abby Chatfield did a post on her TikTok in response to it. Have you seen this? Where it's basically the full behind the scenes of like, oh, okay, we got met at the door and it was this number. And then she was like, I hope Triple J are me saying this, and it's totally fine. But I think it just shows that, yeah, there's no real smoke and mirrors. No one really knows. And those reactions are genuine.
Yeah, awesome. I think the most amazing exclusive you've given us there, Lachie, is that you had to ask Adam if he'd like to go to a quiet room or go to a party. I don't think he's ever been asked that in his life, to be honest.
Yeah.
What a
it's
choice.
true.
Hey, just to wrap this up, Lachie, everyone looks at the ratings now, like it's over and we've had that radio moment and we all celebrate how great it is. And then survey 1 comes out in, a few weeks and everyone goes, oh, the hottest 100 did or / didn't do anything for ratings. But tell us how you assess it. Do you look at those ratings and look for a good result, or are you looking at much more wider breadth of numbers?
Yeah, a lot wider. Like I think, and that's always the case for us, regardless of the book. I mean, I'm a radio nerd, from sort of community radio at 19. So I've always loved having a look detailed at any GFK numbers. But for us, it's a lot broader than that. We'll always expect a bit of a bump survey 1 because we know how many people get around this list. But we also know that, we've only just had GFK survey 8. And we know it's pushing a little bit later each year what time survey 1 starts. So for us, when we're looking at actual impact, it's linear, of course, because it's such a rare collective listening moment, as you pointed out. I'd say it's one of the few in the world outside of sport where it just feels like everyone's listening to the radio. And I know I'm biased, but a lot of people around the world talk to me about that, including the head of Denmark Radio that I'm chatting to tomorrow about it because he wants to do his own, I think.
Right, wow.
So I think for us, it's linear. Of course, we focus on that because it's such a great radio moment. But it's digital. It's as equally about those numbers on socials and those stories that we can tell on the platforms that our audience are using. And then it's cultural impact. That's sort of the cocktail for us. Cultural impact's harder to define or quantify a lot of the time, but it's thinking about those stories from Play Lunch or the Terrys or looking at the overall Australian numbers. It's the fact that we've partnered with We Are Mobilised now, a charity for the 2nd year, and it's at almost 620,000, which is 50% up on last year. So those are the things that mean a lot for us out of that list as well, that sit outside GFK or outside any sort of social dashboard that are just as important.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on another great year. And yeah, I'm donning my Hottest 100 shirt today, and you can still go to the Triple J socials and buy one, $45, and it actually goes to We Are Mobilised, who are helping youth homelessness in Australia. Abby and Lachie, congratulations and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Wade.
Wade.
All right, just to end out the episode, a couple of quick liner notes. The Australian Audio Awards, they're back. The ACRAs used to be just for commercial radio, but Australian Audio Awards are for all of audio in Australia. So hopefully we get some great entries from the Triple J crew, Double J crew, the rest of the ABC, as well as independent podcasters, community radio. Everyone jump on. Acast is the headline partner this year for the inaugural Australian Audio Awards. I'm going to be involved. I'll give you a bit more info on that in the next few weeks. A couple of quick shout outs. I'd love to do some shout outs to P1s. Lachie Macara has joined as a P1 of the pod. Interestingly, he's put his demo as 2539. I might just have to do a bit of fact checking on that one. Hello also to Eric Morley-Smith from Perth. G'day, Eric. Thanks to Katrina from Melbourne. Marley from the Netherlands. Hello, Marley. Thanks for joining as a P1. Charlie from Sydney and Jeff from Seattle. So I'm glad you're all signing up to be P1s. You've got until the 31st, so like 2 days to become a P1 for free. You get the chance to do the IDs at the top of the episode. You get to see some behind the scenes stuff, and there's some merch coming. Trust me, there's merch coming because, what would a radio show be without merch? Thanks for joining us again. Tomorrow, at the other end of the scale, Kyle and Jackie O, they're doing an outside broadcast. I'm going to go along and I'm going to ask the question, are OBs still popular? Do they still work in terms of getting people's attention on radio? But for now, that's been the Quarter Hour. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.